This could be a game changer. The New York Times has just broken the story that the Justice Department has requested transcripts from the January 6th committee. So it may be, Dan Goldman, that it isn't just the 1-6 committee. It isn't just their own colleagues who want to know what they saw, what they did, what they texted, and what they knew about January 6th. It may be the United States Department of Justice. Let me read from this news story from reporters Glenn Thrush and Luke Broadwater. The Justice Department has asked the House committee investigating the January 6th attack for transcripts of interviews it is conducting, which have included discussions with associates of former President Donald J. Trump, according to people with knowledge of the situation. The move, coming as Attorney General Merrick Garland appears to be ramping up the pace of his painstaking investigation into the Capitol riot, is the clearest sign yet of a wide-ranging inquiry at the Justice Department. Dan Goldman, your quick reaction. I know we're just all seeing this.
This is, I think, very good news for those who want accountability for what occurred on January 6th. This is exactly the type of coordination you and I have talked about, Nicole, that DOJ should be taking a lot of the information that the January 6th committee has developed. And it's the clearest indication we have that this investigation that started with the actual events of January 6th is expanding now into a potential conspiracy to overturn the election, which is a federal crime.
Let me read this to you, Betsy Woodruff Swan. The Times goes on to report that on April 20th, Kenneth Polite Jr., the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division, and Matthew Graves, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, wrote to Tim Heaphy, the lead investigator for the House panel, advising him that some committee interviews, quote, may contain information relevant to a criminal investigation we are conducting. Times goes on to report that Polite and Graves did not indicate the number of transcripts they were requesting or whether any interviews were of particular interest. In their letter, they made a broad request asking that the panel, quote, provide to us transcripts of these interviews and of any additional interviews you conduct in the future. As you've reported here, and we've talked about, there have been 1,000 people engaged. Any theories on which transcripts are of particular or immediate interest?
This is a big deal. It's also consistent with what we've known, which is that there's a ton of overlap between what the Select Committee is interested in and what DOJ is interested in. The most obvious overlap, of course, are all the rioters and attackers, people who violently attacked the Capitol building, many of whom cooperated with the Select Committee, in part because the Justice Department and federal judges encouraged them to do so as part of an effort to receive leniency. However, we also know that a grand jury in D.C. has issued subpoenas related to the alternate electors scheme and also related to the organization of the rally at the Ellipse that Trump spoke at before and during the very start of the attack on the Capitol building. So it would make sense that DOJ would want to just sort of hoover up all the transcripts that they can get. DOJ always moves more slowly than people want the department to move, with perhaps the one exception of the indictment of Steve Bannon. For the most part, though, they're not super nimble, they're not super speedy over there. But in this case, what we know is that they are progressing. They are pulling evidence together. It would frankly be weird if they didn't ask for these transcripts. The fact that they are asking for them is very much a sign that they're investigating a lot of what the Select Committee is investigating, and that they're going to save some time by perhaps not repeating the Select Committee's work.
For anyone just joining us, let me just bring you up to speed. We're covering the breaking news in the New York Times from just a few moments ago that the Department of Justice, under Attorney General Merrick Garland, has requested transcripts from the Congressional Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection. We're here with Dan Goldman and Betsy Woodruff Swan. Let me read to you, Dan Goldman, from this story from reporters Glenn Thrush and Luke Broadwater about what is an extraordinary development in terms of a near daily cacophony of criticism that DOJ didn't appear to be moving quickly enough to look at the actual plot to overturn the investigation. Ever since Liz Cheney, I think, back in January, read from the criminal statute about the crime that it would be to obstruct an official proceeding, there seems to have been an accelerated exasperation is the best word I can come up with from Claire McCaskill and others publicly and privately. But the New York Times breaking the story in just the last 30 minutes that the Justice Department has asked the House committee investigating the January 6th attack for transcripts of interviews it is conducting, which have included discussions with associates of former President Donald J. Trump, according to people with knowledge of the situation. Let me read to you again when the Times is reporting the request actually was made. Times writes on April 20th, Kenneth Polite, the Assistant Attorney General for the Criminal Division, and Matthew Graves, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, wrote to Timothy Heaphy, the lead investigator for the House panel, advising him that some committee interviews, quote, may contain information relevant to a criminal investigation we are conducting. It does two things, Dan. It confirms what they don't like to do, which is a confirmation of an ongoing criminal investigation that, as Betsy says, at least intersects with and overlaps with the work of the 1-6 Select Committee. But it suggests that, as Betsy's also reported, even though it's going more slowly, it may not be going any less widely. Is that a safe question or theory to have today?
Yeah, I think that's right. Look, when the Department of Justice writes a letter to Congress, they do so knowing that it will get out. So my suspicion is that they have done everything that they can do quietly to gather whatever evidence they can get without actually going to the committee. Now they are going to the committee. Kenneth Polite is a former colleague of mine in the Southern District of New York, as is his principal deputy. And they can and will move quickly when they want to. And once it gets open and confirmed, as it is now, they will move quickly, and they can move quickly if they have the resources. But yes, I think this is a clear indication. And by the way, I would expect them to ask for Mark Meadows' texts. I would expect them to ask for a lot of the documentary evidence that the January 6th committee has. There's no point in reinventing the wheel once you have gone overt and once you've confirmed that you are investigating this. But it does, as you pointed out, Nicole, reflect that this is not a narrow investigation into, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, and whatever relationship Donald Trump may have with them. No, this is a wide-ranging investigation into what is and was a massive, sprawling scheme to overturn the election. And while I know Congressman Cheney several months ago focused on obstructing Congress, I think the more appropriate charge to look at is a broader conspiracy to overturn the election, which does not require as much direct proof about the intent of Donald Trump or others to actually obstruct Congress on January 6th, but backs it out a little bit at a higher level to talk about their effort to overturn the election. And what this letter seems to indicate is that they want access to all of these interviews beyond any potential obstruction of Congress, because we know that the January 6th committee has looked into much more than just the actual events of January 6th and the planning, organizing, and lead up to that. But they've looked at the broader effort to overturn the election. And so I do think you're right. It is an indication that the scope of this investigation is as broad as it could be.